Hello, Las Vegas. This is Rolando LARRAZ on Face the Tribune. Remember that if you have nothing to worry about, you can face the Tribune. If you are corrupted and you are not good to be in office, the Tribune is going to face you. So, with me today is a sheriff candidate, Tim Bedwell, and we know each other for a few years now. I was about 7 years old, I think, when I met you, right?
No, you must have been 10 or so.
Oh, really? Tim Bedwell is running for sheriff of Clark County, and we are going to be talking to him about his plan, his idea, why he wanted to run, and what impulsed him to take the task of leading the most important job in the state of Nevada. Welcome, Tim. How have you been?
I've been really good.
Yeah.
It's been too long since I've seen you, and to set the record straight, we've probably only known each other for 18 years.
Something like that.
Yes.
I was, the Tribune was being printed.
The Tribune was in print, yes.
Yeah, it was printed, and I...
Printed both in Spanish and English.
No, that was the North Las Vegas News.
Oh, the North Las Vegas News, that's right.
The North Las Vegas News. We had 4 sections, and the last section was in Spanish, and the rest was in English. The first three sections. And but what makes you come to this headache? You are young, you got a beautiful wife, you're on a honeymoon, you're rich. Why getting the headache of running for sheriff? Is just the power or the symbol of winning? What's the idea?
Well, first of all, you're right on several measures. I'm totally blessed. I have a wonderful family. My wonderful wife, she's here with me now, and so I have to be on my best behavior, which is pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
And I've been in public service for 42 years. I had to start when I was like minus 20, obviously, if you can have that resume. But for 42 years, I was a Marine for 20 years. I've been a police officer for 22 years. So I have a lifetime of public service behind me. And what I've thought probably for the past few years is what will be the last thing I do in my career in public safety. And last year, with a lot of soul searching with my family, we decided together that I would do what I believe, or what I've been saying for some time in close circles, and that's that I want to be the voice of public safety in Las Vegas and in Clark County, and I want to set the tone in a different direction. So I want to bring change, and we can talk about what that change is going to be, but fundamentally, I want to get policing in the Valley back to public safety first. Law enforcement is a function of that, and investigating crimes is a function of that. But I want every police officer's goal on the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department to be to go to work every day with the mindset that they're going to do everything they can to protect the Valley.
Why do you think all those beautiful things that you say are not working now?
I think that because people that come to me, and first of all, let me be very clear. I had made this decision prior to October 1st. My campaign account and my campaign has existed since August, actually the last week of July of 2017. When October 1st happened, I didn't think it would be, actually I thought it could have been misconstrued if I got out and announced then that I was somehow, it was because of the tragedy. It isn't because of the tragedy. So what the tragedy has done, though, is reinforce my concerns with regard to communication out of Metro. The sheriff's #1 responsibility is to make the citizenry know that the police that report to him are keeping them safe. And I think the biggest downfall for the current administration is making people understand what they're doing, helping people understand what they're doing, and helping people know that they're doing everything they can to make us safe. And October 1st just made that even worse because of the lack of information.
The lack of information from the hotel or from Metro?
Metro doesn't control the hotel, but the sheriff is the
No, the hotel controls Metro, right?
Well, they shouldn't. You can say that, but I'll tell you right now, that shouldn't be the case. And the sheriff is responsible to the public to not necessarily answer every question, but to answer the reasonable questions that have no influence on an ongoing criminal case or have some other, court order that bars them from putting out information. The sheriff needs to come out and put everybody's mind at rest about their questions.
But let me ask you something. Let's stop the campaign for a minute. As a police officer, as an experienced police officer like I know you, what do you think went wrong? I hear that the guy was there in the hotel suite for 3 days and he didn't let anybody in, and that is normal, that's common. People put the do not disturb, sign on the door, and they don't bother, especially if they're supposed to be a high roller. I personally don't think he was that much of a high roller. He was maybe a good player, but I don't think he was a high roller. Do you?
I don't have any knowledge about this case than anyone else in the public does right now. I'm not in law enforcement now. I'm not going to Monday morning quarterback people, specifically with regard to what happened there, other than the fact that I'll say that we know that people who don't learn, if you don't learn from the past, the mistakes of the past, you're destined to relive them, the results. So we're talking about a situation where you have a lot of questions, and I'm sure there's more than we'll ever have a chance to talk about today. And I'm not proposing that the sheriff needs to answer every single detailed question, but I think the sheriff needs to come out and tell us why people are so uneasy about the safety of Las Vegas right now, both people here and people outside, specifically with regard to the hotel. We don't police the hotels, we don't police the Strip like we police other areas. And when I say that, every community and every different neighborhood might have a slightly different way that police should need to approach different problems. The way that it's done on the Strip isn't done in that way at all. The police avoid the hotels because the hotels have security. It's my opinion that we should have an area command that encompasses just the Strip. And the officers that work at that area command should have beats that include those hotels. And the purpose behind that is that I want those same officers going into the Mandalay Bay or the MGM and seeing employees and talking to guests. And if someone says something that was out of place, which I think there were many, many signs that were missed here,
yes,
I think we'd have a better chance as law enforcement to not only have the investigative arm that you don't see in the Fusion Center, but to also have the police officers who are uniformed, who are seen all the time, that go in, and I think they should be going in and out of those hotels. And it's my opinion that they should kind of not welcome there in uniform, because that sets the tone that, why are the police here? They should be there, and they should be there to set the tone that you're safe here. And I believe that the people of Las Vegas and anybody coming here wants to feel safe here. If I'm sheriff, when I'm sheriff, they will, because I'll have those police officers mixing with the employees on the Strip, mixing with the citizens that are from out of town. And when somebody sees something, the whole idea of see something, say something, it breaks down when you have to you have to find a phone to make that happen. If you see a police officer regularly and you see something, and then you just walk up to somebody you probably regularly see if you work there, you see Jim, your officer friend, and you go, hey, there's a guy carrying a whole bunch of bags up the back elevator. It's kind of weird, and I don't think security's doing anything about it. Wouldn't that have been a better result? Now, I'm not saying that could have happened, Orlando, and I'm not blaming people. I'm saying let's learn from that, and in the future, let's put things in place that will prevent it.
Well, I don't think the relationship between citizens and police officers are as friendly as they used to be in the old days. In the old days, the uniformed police don't go into the casinos.
Right.
Detectives go, they have dinner over there, everything was a little bit different. And I understand that the population has changed. You know, we have 2.2 million people living in here now. But I think we have lost the contact, the communication between police. Police is, I believe, first of all, the morale of the police department is in the floor. I believe they don't know what they're going to do and the consequence of whatever they do with the superiors. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that once you become a sergeant, you're not a police officer anymore. You're an administrator. And if you look what happened with Tom, the guy that was the supervisor for homicide, robbery and homicide, he's been arrested because he was committing crimes. A lieutenant, then it was corrupted from the beginning. The only reason then he was there is because he do all the cover up for that department. And that's why they get that arrogance. Then it need to disappear, it need to go. And
let me address that, Rolando, because you brought up a really good point. This has to do with the culture of the organization. And I'm not going to point at Metro and say some of the things that other people are saying with regard to the way the officers work. I believe Metro has fantastic people.
Very much so.
I believe they need to be empowered. I want to tell you something. I made Sergeant in the Marine Corps in 1979. I've been leading people for a long, long time. And in the Marine Corps, the morale is very high. And one of the reasons is because we believe that leadership at the lowest level. So I don't believe a sergeant is an administrator. I don't believe a lieutenant is an administrator. I think they are leaders. A lieutenant is going to be interacting with the captain and chiefs. Those people obviously are administrators. They don't have a function on the day-to-day operation with individuals on the street. Under my leadership, Metro command staff will be tasked specifically to push the responsibility down the chain. We want good oversight. We want to have transparency. We want to be responsible. But we also want police officers to feel like they can do what you're just talking about. Get out and meet people. Make a difference every day. And not have a sergeant saying, how many tickets did you write today? Because we don't care. I don't want that. I don't want to measure their success by how many misdemeanor arrests they make for jaywalking or riding a bicycle on the sidewalk. I want to measure success by how safe do people feel on the streets.
But I think those jaywalking arrests, it might save some lives, because I tell you, it's an epidemic right now. And everybody that cross the street without the crossing line, I don't know how they do it. They are dressed in black. Why do they dress in black? I saw a lady the other day, a few months ago, it's not the other day. She got one kid over here, and pushing the car. crossing the street right there in front of the U.S. Bank. How can you be so irresponsible to have 3 kids and be jaywalking?
So let me talk about solutions to that. Clearly what's going on right now isn't working, you just said it. It's an epidemic. So that's one issue. There's many, many issues. We have to prioritize those. But I would ask you, would you rather have the police officers taking a woman to jail and her kids to family, or over to child haven, to arrest her for jaywalking?
Well, no.
No, you don't. I know that. But
I'm exaggerating.
So
But
but we see those people, and those are the worst offenders oftentimes, because they're training their children to do the same thing. So we stop those people, we intervene, we have a conversation with them. The one that you just described, and it isn't an exaggeration, we've seen this. I will guarantee you people have seen exactly what you've said. But writing that person a ticket's not going to change things. What's going to change things is to intervene and explain to her why you're there. And I'll tell you, the changes in people's faces when I tell them about the fatalities I've been to involving jaywalkers, it's because I'll tell you, first of all, I don't believe a police officer should give you a lecture and a ticket.
No.
You give me one or the other.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, going and paying a $75 fine has less value sometimes than an explanation of what it looks like to be at the scene where these people get run over, because I've done that many, many times. And when I stop and talk to people, sometimes it clicks a light bulb. Does it affect everybody? No. Is it another strategy? Yes. My point is, I don't want my officers spending the majority of their day doing that. And one thing I absolutely don't want is I don't want them doing it in one neighborhood and not doing it in another neighborhood, because one neighborhood is poor and another neighborhood is not. Because you see that sometimes. So my question is, if you're going to write somebody a ticket for riding a bicycle on the sidewalk on Las Vegas Boulevard at gas, you better be writing in summer if they're doing the same thing. Or let's not do either, and let's talk to people and explain the law to them. Most of the people I see who ride a bicycle on the sidewalk don't even know it's against the law. They're just trying to be safe. I don't want to get out on the road in front of the cars, right? So let's go back to what this is all about. This isn't all about misdemeanor crime. It's about deployment of assets and the best way to keep everybody safe. And the difference in time for an officer to make an intervention where he gives a little lecture and goes on his way is quite a bit different than the time it takes, even if he just writes a ticket. And then it goes into the court system, and then it bogs everything down, and at the end of the day they go to a pink building and pay a little fine and they don't receive it. That's not the solution for me.
No. I believe that, look who is there now, Luke Truman. I believe that, I tell you, it's a lot of problems that are happening in our city. Do you know Tim Bedwell?
Luke Truman, how are you?
You met him? You met really? When?
Everybody knows me.
Take that paper out of
I
my
need that
table.
paper. I want to find out what's
Take
going
that
on.
dirty paper out of my table. Who do you think that you are?
I'm at your office.
You know, let me tell you, it's a lot of things that Metro, I understand. I just find out that the Metro have police officers off duty working the strip, paid by the hotels.
Out of uniform?
No, on uniform.
In uniform.
On uniform. Lou is running for county commissioner, District E.
Did you file yesterday, Lou?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Did you file yesterday?
I did.
Oh, I didn't see you there. I
I
filed.
think I was the first one to file.
Were you really?
Yeah, he was the first one to file.
Can you shake your hand?
Actually, I don't know, this is, how many elections in a row now? I don't know.
42.
At least,
42
right?
elections.
I file every year to run for something, and I usually try to be the first one to file, so.
You know.
Maybe
but
this time will be the time.
I believe that that is not a solution. I think it might be a solution, and this is something that you as a candidate might be able to use it for to project something.
And to be clear, you're talking about overtime officers on the street.
Yes, I think that make the officers tired. They make them being tired. You can be grouchy. You can be in a bad mood. You can be exhausted. You cannot run after somebody else. I think if the hotels need more help with, they should create their own police force.
I have a better idea.
What is?
First of all, what you're saying costs obviously more than 1.5 times that of a police
Are you
officer.
talking about more law enforcement help?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, paying an officer that's on overtime is more than time and a half. It also usually
Yeah, but the hotels pay
So,
that.
let me just finish. So that includes a car, they have a rate that includes their PERS, a whole bunch of things. So it's it's well over 1.5 times the cost of having a police officer there on a regular time. So if they're going to invest that money, if the Strip has that money to spend for overtime officers, and it's a lot of money,
Yes.
let's invest that in a more professional manner, and Metro can have officers there on regular time, and they can run their regular beats, and they're the same people all the time. Just like we talked earlier, they employ more of a community policing type situation because it's the same officer. The same officer works the same hotels. They have a beat. They do it in New York.
Like unburden the taxpayer at the same time.
And you unburden the taxpayer at the same time to a great extent, but at the same time, it stays within the most professional organization of law enforcement in the county. The leader of law enforcement and criminal justice and, most importantly, public safety in Clark County is the sheriff. Whether the current sheriff wants to assume that or not, it is a fact. And the people in all of the other agencies and all of Metro look at him, and the community looks at the sheriff as the leader. I'm telling you, I will fill that void in
How do
leadership.
you do that?
First of all,
the hotels will put more money into the budget of Metro. But then the hotels wanted to tell the sheriff what to do.
But you just told me that's already happened. So here's the point. It's already happening. They're already paying that money. Let's pay a different amount of money, would be, or if you want to pay the same amount, that's fine. As a sheriff, I'll take it because we'll employ it. We'll make it.
But technically, they're not.
No, that takes legislation because then we have to go get a tax. It has to be done under the light of openness and proper legality. In other words, we sit down at the table, we bring the Strip hotels and owners to the table. We all know what's at stake here. We know what has happened since October 1st. It has to be better. It has to look better. People have to know it's better. People have to feel safe here. So we bring them to the table. And I'll tell you, I got a novel idea. I'm going to ask them for ideas. I'm going to ask people for ideas because I don't have every answer. You don't want to vote for a person who tells you they have all the answers. You want to vote for a person who will lead to get the things done that you're asking for. And you're asking for a fairly monumental task, but it's doable. And if we can't do it, we're on the road to decline.
So why is it that these people then make us, the citizens, believe that they have all the answers? They always get elected.
I think
Why is that?
Because the electorate is very, very stupid, as we know, and they believe everything they're told. That's why.
Because I've seen the people always elected the worst candidate.
So I'm going to take a different opinion than Lou here. I'm going to foster a somewhat different approach to this. A lot of time candidates feel like they look weak if they admit they don't know the answer to a question. When you ask me a question, I'm going to give you my best shot at it, but I'm also going to leave it open for more ideas. Again, I think the sheriff has to be a leader and bring a sense of order to the community, a sense of safety. And I've seen it dwindle, and it's clearly in flux right now. You can't imagine that. Let me just tell you something on an aside. My commitment has been to answer every question that comes into me. Now, if somebody just call or they send me they send me a post on Facebook and they rant or cuss or whatever, and it's just, they're just making a point, I don't even respond to it. But if it's somebody that has a legitimate position or a question, I always respond to them. Now, I said that right out the gate. And I'm already spending way more time every day helping people understand where I'm at. So now I'm getting the right categories. We'll leave 7 today about this subject and 4 about that. So I'll write a little on this today, and I'll write it. And my website's growing because of that. But people in Las Vegas right now want answers about their safety. And it's my commitment to give them those answers. And in order to be elected, I'm going to prove to you right now, there is no question off limits. I'll answer whatever you ask me. And if I don't have any idea what you're talking about, I'll say I don't know what you're talking about. I will find out. That's how I learned to lead.
Yesterday, I was talking to City Councilman Stavros Anthony. I'm sure you know him.
Yeah, I just saw him the night before last.
Oh, really?
Yes.
But you met him when he was a police captain, and he was under the impression that the police department is important, but in the Strip. But I also believe that the citizens that live here also need the protection and the backup of the police department. Right. While the other day I saw Metro officers with several organizations walking down the street on the Strip because they wanted to take the Strip back. The MS-13 on the west side of Las Vegas was killing somebody, and I don't think, and that's when the idea came, then maybe the hotels can build their own police force. Call them security guys. You don't have to call them police force, or call them police officers so people can give them a little more believe, more trust, more identification with, because when you say security guard, I don't know why people always measure security guard as a second,
Well, they don't have arrest authority. There's other than citizens arrest, there's a whole lot of other things. But I have a question for you. I think this is really important. Why do we have to take back the Strip? Who lost it? Who let it go? So let's not say there should have been somebody on the west side where at the same time that the police officers were taking back the Strip. We shouldn't have given it away. So let's keep it, and let's deploy our forces in a smart way all over the valley and protect everyone equally. But there'll never be any taking back something that I gave up when I'm sheriff.
And do you have anything to say? I thought you want to say something.
No, I was going to, but I didn't.
I didn't mean to push you back.
No, that's all right.
I wanted to get off on that whole take the Strip back thing. I really had a problem with that. I actually posted it on Facebook and said, who gave it away?
Let me ask you.
And you want the hotels law enforcement to do that?
No.
No, I don't.
They can't.
That was
they
me.
can't. They'll be liable. They can't do it.
Absolutely. That was
my idea. That was my idea. Create a police force. You don't have to use the overtime Metro officers. You don't have to do anything else.
Who would create the police force?
I'll tell you exactly how. We've already talked about the fact that they're paying a lot of money in overtime to bring security to the Strip.
To the police.
To the police. Yes. So let's legislatively come together and appropriate that money directly to Metro, rather than through, because it goes to Metro anyway. They're paying them through Metro. Let's appropriate that money to Metro directly instead, and Metro then can use that to bring in more police officers than we have, because they would be over less than half the price. Okay? less than 1.5 times. So all I'm saying is spend the money wiser. If the money's already being spent, and in fact I would probably be okay with if it's a little bit less since they're paying time and a half, let's appropriate it directly to Metro. Call it a tax or whatever you want to. Let's not make up funny words like investment in the future. We'll just structure that money to go over in their budget, and we hire officers that go in there and they fill those slots that are now being filled by overtime officers. You know what's really good about it? It's going to be the same officers all the time.
I think the public will be up in arms.
They may be, but the money's already coming. You don't think the public would accept that money from the hotels if they're already taxing people to do it anyway?
It all depends. It all depends what's tied to the giving of the money. What do they want in return?
Well, what they're going to get is security if I'm sheriff and nothing else. I won't do any quid pro quo with regard to secrets or anything like that.
Let me ask you.
I don't think you get the hotels to police other people's property.
I'm not asking them to.
Well, then I don't think the hotels will police public property.
But no, but the idea that he had, it's workable.
Yes.
It's workable. Let me tell you why. Okay, right now, the hotels are paying Metro for the off-duty police officers. They don't have to pay overtime. They don't have to pay time and a half.
Yes, they do.
Why? They off.
No, they're paying them overtime. I will tell you right now, they are paying
They are,
overtime for
okay,
the
so
officers.
now if they can put that money and the legislation will assign that money to Metro, they can have the same police officers all the time. It's almost like a private police force, but coming from Metro, it has more. That is some hell of an idea.
Lou, I mentioned this before you actually got here, so that's part of what you should know. I would put an area command in the strip, and the officers in the strip would police the strip. So the ones that are there now, and if we did what we're talking about here, we'd have those people as well policing the strip.
And they don't have to work
with
overtime.
beats. They wouldn't work overtime, and it would work better for everyone. Now, can the three of us sit down at this table and fix this right now? No. It's ideas like this, with your influence here, as I've just gotten information from you on what makes my plan better. We sit down at the table, we bring the people to the table, the commission has to come, the municipality has to come, obviously the hotels have to come, the public has to come, and we come with a plan. We get the budget people in the room, we do the numbers, and then we present it in the light of day. It's not, nobody can even point to it and infer that this is some backroom deal, between Metro and the strip hotels. It's all in the light of day, which to me, light of day things done by any government agency, not just the police department, but any, you know this, Lou. If it's done in the light of day, people respect it more.
No, I think it's more or less what I was suggesting, but you doing it in a more legal way.
He's doing it without an accent. That's right.
That's probably what it is, But no, that's exactly what I said. That would be a command post. You will have somebody there, then it will act like the chief.
It's still got to be funded by public money.
No, it's not going to be public money. The hotels are going to put the money.
But here's what you're saying.
You would like the hotels to put some money.
Let me say the same thing. You guys
Well,
are both
that's
saying.
the idea.
Well,
Check this out. It's always public money. It always comes from the public, whether it's done as a tax.
no,
as a
I
pay
know
rate.
that. All I'm saying.
My point, Lou, is if they're already paying it, let's find a way to do it smarter, more legitimate, less questions.
Without an increase in funds?
No, the funds not any more than they're already paying. Let's have Metro just deliver up the numbers. Here's what we get that we pass along to our officers in overtime that's paid by strip hotels, and we guarantee the public that money that's coming from that is going to go right back into officers that are going to do that same job.
That's always the biggest problem, is the funding.
It is always.
But if the hotels are providing the funding,
You mean you hope the hotels, they may not?
then they don't gonna have any, they don't gonna have the command post, they don't gonna have any
But
of that.
let's be realistic. They can't do a lot of operations without Metro. I mean, Metro police officers are at every concert. You have to have them there. So there are, as a matter of fact, it's in city code and county code both, as to how many police officers have to be at certain types of events. So it's already happening. I didn't come in here with this idea. This was my friend Rolando's idea. My idea is to police the strip with the same people all the time, and we will allocate the assets we already have, and maybe try to get them to do something with the location where the shooting happened, to put the area command there. But I hear what you're saying, and it's another reason other people bring good ideas. You've got a good point about people and wondering about, is the money going to be spent exactly? How do we prove it?
Is there a big crime problem on the strip now?
Well, they killed 58 people there on October 1st of last year. That's a pretty
Let
big
me ask you one question now that you mentioned that. How many homicides do you think are committed in Clark County in 1 month?
Well, it depends on whose numbers you look at. It depends on if you include everyone that was killed. Because
Well,
Metro's numbers don't include 58 that really matter. And there were still over 170. The number I've been told is higher than it's ever been in the past year, last year.
170 a month?
No, last year.
Oh, for the year?
Yes.
On the strip?
No, total. Plus 58 people murdered on October 1st. That's
Countywide?
No, Metro jurisdiction.
Well, that's county.
No, because Metro doesn't count things that happen on a railroad track. There was a murder on a railroad track last year. They didn't count that. They don't count things that happen on the tribal lands, even though Metro investigates them. And they don't count 58 people killed at Route 91. They don't count people who are murdered in North Las Vegas, for example.
So how many do you think?
You have to add them all up, and it's well over 200. It's probably close to 300.
A month?
Here.
Oh, no, I'm talking about.
But they don't give numbers, Rolando, by month. They give them by year. So we just have to look at the year and then divide that by 12. So that's over 20. That's 22 or something. 23 a month. The entire county.
I don't think you can do it that way, because I don't think, if you do it that way, you're going to be looking at an even number coming from every area, and I don't think that that's true, because
No,
I think there's more crime committed in the summer than there is in the winter.
Absolutely, and that's what computer policing is about. You don't just look at the raw numbers. Even if you look at it by month, that's not. You asked me a specific question about numbers. That's not what defines where you put police officers. What defines where you put police officers is in the minutiae. You have to look at where, and the why has to be taken into account. But I believe it's inappropriate to exclude people. One homicide that happens on a railroad track and another one that happens across the street. I don't see why you would exclude the one that happened on the railroad track, because that's on railroad property and they have their own police department. Because what that does is skews your number. It clearly happened in Las Vegas. And it happened across the street from another murder. So when you look at the crime numbers, if you exclude that, then you don't put the same resource, or it just changes your thought process, which is why I really have a problem with the fact that the sheriff has left the 58 people killed in the Route 91 shooting out of the crime stats. If you take those out of your thinking process, then you don't think about the danger that exists on the strip. You should be policing for that.
Well, that was
That
the
all
point.
incorporates all the problems we have. Is that the hotels, I should say, the sheriff's department is run by the hotels. They demand, and the sheriff acts.
Well, the sheriff is an elected official. The sheriff is responsible to the public.
Well, that's on paper, but that's not the way it happens.
Well, I'm running for that office, and I'm telling you how.
Oh, you're running for sheriff?
Yes, I
Good
am.
for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
But that's the way it runs.
So these are pipe roads, Lou. This is what I'm going to do.
My point is, then what's the difference if it's 58 murders in 1 day or 58 murders in 3 months? The difference is no different. It's just why do we have to have those things? And people have to realize. It's like me when I go to the courthouse. I don't mind taking my shoes off, taking my belt off, and If they decide to let me go because they know who I am and they let me go, I appreciate it, but I tell you, if they do it to me, if they make me take my shoes, my belt, my pants, whatever it is, they will do it to somebody else, and I feel safe inside that building.
It should be everybody. It should
should
be for
be.
everybody.
Yeah.
The same process.
But why do we accept, why we make an exception for lawyers or for anybody else? Or
Who sets the rules that makes the exception?
lawyers don't have to go through.
Why?
I don't know.
But that's what I'm saying. Who said that? Who's in
The
charge of that?
The court administrator, I guess, you know.
Well, maybe we need to contact their office and find out who okayed it or why. Just because the guy's a lawyer, that doesn't mean anything. Are there crooked lawyers? Of course.
Well, there's trusted traveler programs out there that you can apply for, and they just do a real quick background on you. And then if you get that, you don't have to take your shoes off, you don't have to take your computer out of your bag. So, Rolando, you should go out to the airport and put in for that.
For what?
What they call TSA pre-check, so that you can go in the other line and you don't have to take your shoes off and take your computer off.
Oh, I don't fly.
Well, they're complaining about
I don't
security.
fly. No, I don't
I'm just
fly.
giving you, if you do want to fly, the next time you want to, because you're going to want to fly one day, go get TSA pre-check first. But you know, you also brought up a really good point. It's safe getting on a plane. You ever feel like you're pretty safe once you get past security? We don't do anything in schools. And look what's happening across the country.
I wrote about that last week. Why don't we put some metal detector in the schools? Why don't we look, there's a school in Florida now, they put in a bulletproof windows.
The governor of Florida has announced that they're going to put a police officer in every school in the state. They need 5,000 or 6,000 police officers.
I believe that the school police should stop playing being a state police and start making sure that there is more presence in the schools and treat those kids not like kids but like any other person, because those kids nowadays, look at the children lately. It's say 18 years old, 14 years old, you know, kids are not kids anymore. They're shooters.
You know, putting an officer in a school is not going to help, because the bad guy can shoot the cop and that's all over. Then he's got the whole school to himself.
You're talking to the wrong guy about that, Lou. You know, I protected embassies across the world. I was in Madagascar, Jamaica, Greece. I spent the whole year of Desert Shield and Desert Storm in Greece, which is a high terrorist threat post. And we put people there with guns to protect people in the embassy. And none of us got killed. And we didn't get killed because nobody would have taken us on. So if we put real police officers, I'm not talking about putting a school teacher at the front gate with a firearm and a CCW. I'm talking about putting a police officer there with a vest on, all of his force options, to prevent children from coming in with their own weapons and causing havoc, and then having them there all day so that somebody doesn't come in with a Sandy Hook or some kid that is mad at little kids goes in and shoots up a bunch of elementary children, 20 some of them dead. Let's have a police officer stop that. At the end of the day, make sure the kids get off and filter back out into the neighborhoods in a safe fashion. The things people want to do right now to make schools safer, they all have merit to some degree. But some of them are just never going to happen. And most of them will require legislation. We can put a police officer in every school in Clark County.
You don't need a legislation.
I don't need legislation. The sheriff can do that. It's like if there's a high crime area here, there's some reason I deploy a force there. You can absolutely do that.
I really don't think that's going to solve a problem, because if a guy comes with a gun and he wants to do any kind of damage, he's going to shoot the police officer. And the police officer will never know it.
But Lou, we deal with that every day. Every police officer deals with that every day, whether we're going to a domestic call or making a traffic stop. We don't know if somebody's going to pull a gun on us. That's why we give them training.
So what about the metal detector? That doesn't work.
The metal detector's a great idea.
Then we're back to the metal detector.
That's another thing.
I agree.
Let's go into another thing. We need to talk about backpacks. Did you carry a backpack to school? I didn't know what a backpack was when I was.
Backpack don't exist when I went
No,
to
we
school.
carried whatever books we had to, and the rest we left in the locker. Now kids carry backpacks. They're the biggest security problem at a school right now. That's how the shooter got his AR in the school in Florida. We need to address things like that, which is why I want professional police officers.
But if you have a metal detector, like when you go to the courthouse and you put your briefcase in that thing over there, it shows what you got inside that backpack.
So let me tell you what else I want to do when I put a police officer in every school. The other thing I want to do is I want to have in the sheriff's department I want to have an investigative unit specifically to follow up on all of these threats against kids and all these threats against schools. Because if we look at the ones that happen in schools,
they're not being followed up now?
They're not. Every single one of them, there's these huge amounts of, oh, we didn't think about that, and all these red flags that came out. Why didn't they do something? That's what I want somebody tasked specifically to do that. And I'll draw from the municipalities. I'll have Anderson Cop there, have a North Las Vegas police officer there, we'll have school police in there, and those people will be specifically done. They'll be detectives, and they will be doing safety of 18-year-old and under kids across the county, including the schools. They'll be working with these people. And so the officers that we have in the school will be feeding them information. Well, some kid said Joey has been seen with pictures of an AR-15 saying he's going to shoot up the school. And they get it, and then they look at the resources they need. They go to subpoena whatever records they have to, and they make an investigation and determine whether this is a real threat or not. And we can intervene in these things. So there's more to my plan than just putting a police officer in every school. It's also about having the intelligence gathering capability to intervene properly. So I will admit that my military background, my security background from being in charge of security at embassies, influences a lot when it comes to how I would deal with, say, school problems. But again, I don't have all the answers. I throw all these things out there, and I will tell you that at the end of my first term, I don't care if the officers that are working in schools are wearing blue uniforms and Clark County School District police patches, or whether they're Metro cops. But by the end of my first term, I want to have something in place that's solid and long-term. Right now, I want to take care of the problem today, what I can do right now to fix it. So you don't have moms and dads on national television putting people in tears because they lost their children in a school, when we've learned this lesson too many times.
What about, we only got 3 minutes. What about the gangs? What would you do to trying to diminish the visibility more than anything else?
Metal detector. Metal detector.
In the street?
In the entrance, you talk about out on the street, you'll never ever do anything about that.
But here's what happened. So Metro either decentralized or did away with their gang unit. And they realized after a couple of years that they made a mistake and they've come back around. So it's back in place. So it's getting
back in place.
Yeah, it is back in place.
Well, that's good to know.
So that's good. What will I do? I'll double down on the investment where I can. I'll bring as many experts as I can. If they're doing it great, then I won't have to make any changes. Because I don't think there's a real big problem with the gang unit now that they've got it back in force. So since you don't have a lot of time, I want to make sure that one thing else. BEDWELLforsheriff.com. I'm Tim Bedwell on Twitter, and I'm also Tim Bedwell on LinkedIn. Anybody who wants to hear what I'm doing or see what I'm all about, you can go to BEDWELLforsheriff.com.
How can people donate to your campaign?
Same thing. There's a donation page on my website at BEDWELLforsheriff.com.
And that you promise here today that you're going to be the new sheriff in town.
I'm not in this to lose it. This is going to be a long race, and I'm going to take some bashing. Every candidate does. I'm expecting it, but I'm going to be your sheriff on the 7th of January.
You here first. This is your first interview, no? No. Who was your first interview?
I don't even remember.
No.
We've done
Kevin Wall.
No.
Kevin Wall.
What was the first interview?
It was a press conference. There was a whole bunch.
Oh, we had a press conference.
Well, but then
KDON. Oh, yeah.
KDON. My first was on KDON.
KDON. Well, that's okay. Was Alan Stock?
Is anybody else not running yet?
Gordon is. And the sheriff has said he's running.
Gordon is not a part of the solution. He's part of the problem.
He's running. And the sheriff
he
announced this one. and
he
stuff.
got good ideas and.
I mean, I like Gordon, he's a nice guy and all that, but I don't see. So,
I believe that he would be more effective if he can throw his support on somebody like Tim now and be more realistic because I believe he's still having health problems. I think he'd be better. He missed one election, so another election doesn't going to be.
I'd like to see somebody that doesn't have any connection with the Metro at all.
There he
Yes.
is.
Same.
Thank you very much.
There's too many bad habits that they've developed over the years.
Now you need to sit down, relax, and let me say goodbye. Thank you, Tim, for being here.
Thank you, Rolando.
Thank you, Tim Bedwell, for being here. He's running for sheriff of Clark County, and hopefully it will not be too many candidates like sometimes happen. Like one time, what was it, 12, 14 people running for the same office, and then we choose the worst. Hopefully we be able to, the citizens of Clark County will be able to become the people who elected the sheriff and not the loser. So, thank you for being here today. Good luck to you. And Lou is running for County Commissioner District E to replace, what's her name?
What's her name? That's her. That's her. What's her name?
Chris G.
I rest my
Chris
case.
G. And I'm off. I'm off. You want to be a photographer instead of being the executive producer?